Welcome back to Switch to Linux and another Distro Wars. This one today we're going to be putting together probably the two most popular flavors with Ubuntu. We're going to be talking about Ubuntu Budgie versus Ubuntu Mate. Now, both of these flavors are both official flavors. They're available on the Ubuntu website under the official flavors, or at least their website links are. They are both excellent distributions, and I will have a hard time coming up with which one's better. So really, I think this is going to be more situational. What is best for your particular circumstance? Neither one of them is necessarily a bad option, unless, of course, you think Ubuntu is the devil, in which case they're both bad. But that aside, let's just go ahead and have a look at these guys. So we're going to grab these from the official flavors. So it's ubuntu.com/download/flavors. And remember, this is UK, so it's the UK spelling of flavors. And we have a few different flavors to choose from. We are grabbing Ubuntu Budgie and Ubuntu Mate. So let's go ahead and just open up these individual websites. So over on Ubuntu Budgie here, basically, I always called Budgie GNOME done right. It is based on GNOME, and it has a lot of GNOME dependency, but it gives you a little bit more of a familiar desktop build with that. I really, like, if I wasn't running Cinnamon, I would probably be running Budgie. While I do like Plasma a little bit better, the bugs in Plasma sometimes kind of push me more towards Budgie. Who knows, maybe those are getting cleaned up. So we have options, whether you're coming from Windows, coming from Mac, you have a lot of different options inside of here. A lot of people really like this one. Head on over to the downloads page. You can grab the 2004, which is the LTS. You can grab the 2010, which is going to be supported just for another couple months, or you can grab the 2104, which just came out, good until next January. And I'm actually using the 2104. Now, you also have a Raspberry Pi version, so that's nice. Maybe this is something I test on my Raspberry Pi. If Debian doesn't work out well, there's the 10 and there's the 2004 LTS. So you have options for direct downloads and the torrent downloads. And other than that, you know, it's good. It's Ubuntu with Budgie in it. If you've not seen Budgie, we'll go ahead and jump over to the desktop here shortly. The next one is Ubuntu Mate. This one is probably considered a good old solid gold standard. The people developing this, they are deeply involved in a whole variety of different areas in the field of Ubuntu. Very good guys, very competent guys in what they're doing. And before Ubuntu Budgie was a thing, Mate definitely hands down was the best implementation, oftentimes even surpassing the raw Ubuntu itself. Of course, the Mate desktop is based on the GNOME before it split. So, of course, GNOME went from GNOME 2 to GNOME 3. That caused a little bit of a controversy. You had two split-offs, one of these being Mate, which kept the GNOME 2 base and branched off from there. The second one being Cinnamon, which said, well, I don't like the direction GNOME is going. I do like a lot of the modern elements. And so Cinnamon branched off from a GNOME 3. Mate branched off from a GNOME 2. And so you will get a little bit older looking look and feel of a desktop. I just in full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of Mate. I actually do run it on my backup computer. In other words, that's my computer with all my personal life files. It has all of my backup systems. That's actually the version I run over there as I actually run Linux Mint Mate. And I just have more issues with it than not. But it's an all right distribution. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not my personal take. We do have good Raspberry Pi builds, everything down from the 2B all the way up to the current 4. And we just have a variety of different options. These guys are really at the forefront of working with ARM stuff as well. So you have a lot of options. We have 64-bit or 32-bit. Now, of course, the 32-bit, because it's based on Ubuntu, that will drop support in April here. So, oh, that's this month. It's probably already dead. So don't rely on that. You can buy a new Ubuntu Mate computer with it preloaded. There's Raspberry Pis, 32 and 64s. just a variety of different options. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do here with downloading it. So with that, I think what we're going to do now, let's go ahead and boot up our first. So we're going to boot up our Ubuntu Mate here. Excuse me, we're going to start with Ubuntu Budgie, and we're going to go ahead and get logged into here. So I'm running these on a identical virtual machines that run 6 gigs of RAM, 4 processing cores, and 20 gig hard drive, whatever, all the other fun stuff. 256 megabytes, I think, of video memory. I've maxed out whatever it can do. So here you can see on the boot in, it gets in there. We get the logo. It does its little Linuxy thing in the background, and then before long we will land right in on our desktop login screen. So this is what we have. We have options over here. Here's some keyboard layout, things like that, and then over here, we'll just go ahead and enter our super secret password. Now, if you had different desktop environments, they would be displayed over here. In this case, we don't. So what we are going to have here is this is exactly how it's installed, other than the fact that I ran updates. I think there were at this point in time just like 8 updates or whatever else. So over here, we have a bar at the top, which is standard for Ubuntu builds. We do have a plank dock down at the bottom with some of the more common software. We have Firefox, our files. We have Libre Writer, Libre Calc, Rhythmbox for music. We have a software center, and we have a welcome screen. Of course, the welcome screen will pop up the very first time you install. And with this, we have introduction, we have features, recommendations, we can install software, themes and layouts, and things like that. So let's just kind of walk through it here. Here's what is it. You can just kind of go down through. You can read about what they're doing, things like that. Let's see, I think these are all just the basic features that it contains in it. Here's some getting started. So here's just a lot of different options. So here we have the ability to install a variety of different web browsers. If you don't like Firefox, you can install the Snap version, or you can remove it. Chromium they have as a Snap. You have Google Chrome available. This is probably a Deb package. Vivaldi, Brave, Opera, Midori, GNOME Web, and Experimental. Ooh. So you have a couple different options there. You can go ahead and install whichever browser you would like from there. Here is the settings and customizations. Now, one of the downsides about Budgie is that they do have 2 separate settings panels. So if you don't remember exactly where everything is, you go looking for settings, you'll see settings and Budgie settings. Budgie settings, excuse me. Bungie, I'm going to jump off a bridge apparently. So where the difference is that your basic settings, this is your GNOME settings. We'll cover this one first in case you're familiar with GNOME. This is basically everything that you find inside of your GNOME system. And that's all that one is. The Budgie settings controls everything related directly to the desktop itself. So this is going to cover your theming and styles. Out of the box, we have this darker theme installed. We have desktops. Do you want to enable or disable desktop icons? So this has full desktop icon capabilities in here. Or you can disable that if you don't like those. You can set which icons are displayed. So if I want to display the trash icon, I can do that. My home directory icon, I can do that. Here's fonts. Now, Raven is the Raven menu inside of Budgie over here. So the Raven menu pops out. This guy here will show us applets and notifications, very similar to how Mac does their system. So if we are playing like some music on Rhythmbox, we can control everything over here with the audio settings. And there's other applets that can appear in the Raven settings as well. So this will tell you where it's at. Is it on the right or is it on the left? We can allow raising the volume, just a lot of different options inside of here. So I like turning on the power strip on this. By default, Budgie tends to put the power button over here. I actually don't like it there. I tend to remove it from that and turn on the power strip. That way the power buttons are at the bottom. That's generally my personal preference, but you can do whatever. I just love the flexibility. Here is the windows, what these are going to look like, button layouts, things like that. And then the panel, you can create a top panel, bottom panel, left panel, right panel. And then on the panel, you can do different settings. So over here, this is actually where our power system should be, unless I'm forgetting myself there. Thought it was. It's probably there. Y'all are probably looking at it going, it's right in front of your face. But yeah, sometimes when you're doing a video, that's what happens. Here is extra settings. So it does look good. It's modern. That's what you're getting started is going to do. Keyboard shortcuts. Here's drivers for extra drivers. Of course, that's a standard Ubuntu thing. So you can always do that. And then there's the themes and layouts. This one over here is where they have some good options. Let's just go ahead and maximize this screen here. We have a couple different options. We have basically these are going to control is the panel on the top or the bottom by default. So you can see we have Whitesir. This is what this is going to look like. Is it Quager? Whatever, Quager, whatever that is. There's a Mojave build, Bokello, material design. I thought there were, oh yeah, over here under our desktop layouts, we have the Ubuntu Budgie, the classic one, which the menu is different. We have Redmond, which is a classic Windows. The traditional Budgie, which is what Solus is going to look like. Cupertino, which is more of an Apple. And the One. I guess this is Neo from the Matrix. I'm not sure. But anyway, you happen to have options inside of that. So that is really what's inside of your welcome screen. Now, if we boot up, for example, a terminal here and run htop, we are running here on about 600 megs. So actually, that's about half the RAM when I did my original testing. So that's going to have me change one of my points. The RAM usage is about the same here as it is on Mate. Let's have a brief look at our software. This is really where the two are going to differ a little bit. So Ubuntu Budgie has the Snap Store installed. So this means that it's going to be the same exact software center that you have on Ubuntu. So if we go in here and we go ahead and search for a package, then it's going to give us our options here, and we have the ability to choose a snap or a repository version of the software. And so here we can choose that, or this one here is probably a repository version. So we have the options to install our snaps from the software store. We're going to see that in Mate we don't actually have that option. So if you want to use snaps, then Budgie is going to get you a little bit better of a management on your software than Mate will. If you don't like snaps, you'll probably like the Mate version better. So we've pretty much had a look at about everything. I guess the only other thing is the windowing manager. This is X. So of course, Ubuntu 2104 went with Wayland by default. This one only has X enabled, and I did not see any way to enable Wayland. So if you do need Wayland, you're probably going to want to pick a different flavor. Not this nor Mate. Neither one of these is actually going to run Wayland, at least not without manually installing it or whatever else. I just didn't see a way to put it on. Our overall pros in this, it is very modern. So for example, online accounts, if you like syncing your various online accounts, I personally do Nextcloud on some of my production systems, which allows me to sync files easily. Things like that. Or if you like, using Google or Facebook or Microsoft for whatever reason, then you have those options. So it has a lot of these modern features, modern notification settings. Just, it looks good, and the theming is very modern overall. It's going to be pretty good theming. The downsides, I did have listed the higher RAM, but it actually seems maybe I was doing something more on the system prior to looking at the RAM. It does look like it's back in line with Mate, so I don't think that that's going to be an issue. The other issue is, again, the settings are not as unified. It is not the most intuitive desktop environment out of the box. Mate is definitely more intuitive, particularly for an older generation, where it's grew up on Windows type systems, but overall Budgie is very good. So there's that one. Let's go ahead and have a look at Mate next. And now we will go ahead and boot up Ubuntu Mate here. And so with this guy, we're jumping right on into the desktop. I think this one does a better job at just showing you the splash screen, but I can't remember for sure. Oh, never mind. Gives us all the same Linuxy under the hood stuff that might scare some people. Oh my God, what's my computer doing? I don't want to type in stuff on the terminal. Oh, you don't have to. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So here is our login screen. So again, we have our options much the same way. If there were another desktop environment or choice, we would have it over there. We'll enter my super secret password here. It's definitely not 123. And then we will land right on the desktop. Now this one, you'll see that Mate gives you 2 panels out of the box. So this one here, we have our welcome screen. It pops up until you toggle this button off down here. So I like this one. What I do like about Mate that it's doing here is it does give us a list of our applications down along the bottom. Modern operating systems don't do that, and it's really annoying because as I'm neck deep in a big project, I really, really want to see all that information down there. So we do have a menu up here. It is fairly modern. I did find that you generally do have to come in here. Okay, it's working now. For a while, I was finding I couldn't just come in here and search for something. I would have to click on the search bar, but that apparently has resolved itself somehow. Let's go ahead and walk through this guy here. We have our basic introduction, very much like Budgie had, telling us about what it is, the objectives, who they are, open source software, things like that. Inside of the features, we have, once again, much the same, productivity. It's already set up. They have some mobile integration down here. Has essential mobile device support. You'd expect plug in a phone media player and the device automatically detected and mounted. You can then access files or sync its contents. So that's fairly standard at this point in time. And under our getting started option, we have updates. We have our drivers, optional tasks, system specifications. So under your optional tasks, we have prompting for backups, network shares, firewall, adding more users, and things like that. We have inside the software system, which is using the software boutique. This one here, it will have all of the repo software, but it does not have, if I can type today, it does not have anything from your snaps. So if you do want to use snaps, you're not going to be able to run it quite as well through here. You're going to have to, probably what I would do if I wanted to run snaps, boot up a terminal, install the snap store, and then boot the snap store and use that. That's going to get you everything. But out of the box, the boutique here does not actually support the snaps. So that's going to be your disadvantage in the event that you happen to want to use them. So let's go ahead and boot up a terminal here. Let's have a brief look at our system resources. So we are running about the same RAM, just about 500 megs of RAM. So much the same as we had over in Budgie. So they're going to be running about equivalent systems. So your RAM usage isn't going to be a lot more different. What you do find though is that as you look around at it, the theming does look a little old. Now, what they do actually give us here is the Mate tweak tool. This actually allows you to do different things with the panels. So right here is the familiar. We have a variety of different looks we can do. So if you go ahead and change your layouts, we can see that we can do the same thing we could do in Budgie. Here's more like Redmond, like in original Windows. We have the Cupertino, which is going to be your more Apple-like. So we get a nice dock at the bottom. We have everything at the top there. So you have a variety of different builds. Let's go back to the default familiar one. So this is what they ship with. As far as your desktop, you can show desktop icons or hide them. You can enable the different icons that you want. And here we can do some animations and some things. Now, one of the things you will notice is that Mate does look a little bit older. It is, as we said, a branch from GNOME 2, which is quite an old of a system at this point in time. So it does have with it a little bit of an older look, setup, style. And some people like that, some people don't like that. That's going to be a matter of personal preference. As far as the functionality is concerned, the only other issue here that we are not going to have here is we don't have the support for online accounts. So if you do like to sync data across a variety of different things, you actually don't have that specific option inside of running Mate. Like Budgie, this one is running X with, I didn't see any Wayland support there out of the box. So there is kind of what we have there. Now, overall here, which one of these is better? Which one of these is worse? Really, they're going to be very much the same. It's going to boil down to a few of your preferences. Really, the only functional difference is Budgie is going to have online account support. Mate is not. Other than that, they're going to be pretty much the same. So the question is, do you need something modern and up to date, or do you want something that's a little bit more older, a little bit more traditional? RAM usage is going to be about the same. The software is equally available, with the exception that Mate does not support snaps in the default software manager, although you can install the Snap Store without a problem if you want those. Neither one of these run Flatpaks out of the box, but it is available to install in the software repositories. So really, that's your individual difference. So which one of these guys is better? Really, I don't think that there is necessarily a better or a worse one. They're both going to be equally good in their own ways. Me personally, if I were doing this, I would go with Budgie, simply because I personally prefer Budgie over Mate. But Mate is a very good, very mature, very competent desktop environment. It is easy to use, and a lot of people prefer it above other ones. So if you're in the market, just kind of boils down to, do you need something that's more modern looking or not? Do you need the online accounts, and do you prefer using snaps? Let those be the determinations that decide it for you. So that, both of these are excellent distributions. You're not going to go wrong with either one. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a look at the website, switchedtolinux.com/support, if you want to see all the various ways you can help support the channel, like our Amazon links and things like that. So with all that, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.